Question number 2 on the graphing inequalities quiz had an inequality that was actually in standard form. So there's a couple of different ways to solve this. One way to solve this that we discussed, or to graph this, is to use the cover-up method, which is basically plugging in 0 for x to find your y, and then plugging in 0 for y to find your x. That's all you're really doing. But basically what you're doing is you're not finding slope, you're finding the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So if I cover the y up here, and I want to find the x-intercept, what I have is 4x greater than negative 28. Now you have to think of this as an equation when starting your graph. So this is 4x equals negative 28. So if I want to solve that, if I want to simplify that, I would just divide both sides by 4. So negative 28 divided by 4 gives me negative 7. My x-intercept is negative 7. That means that x is negative 7 when y is 0. That's why I covered the y up. Now the next thing I have to find is my y-intercept, and I do that the exact same way. This time I'm going to cover up the x, and I want to find the y-intercept. So I have the inequality negative 7y greater than negative 28. Again, think of that as an equation. So negative 7y equals negative 28. I'm just going to divide both sides by negative 7. So negative 28 divided by negative 7. Negative divided by negative is a positive. That gives me a positive 4. Now that's my y. My y is a positive 4. So when x is 0, that's the reason I covered it up, y is 4. Those are my 2 points. Okay, so I could plot negative 7, 0 on my x-axis, that's the x-intercept, and then I can plot 0, 4 on my y-axis, that's my y-intercept, and then from there I'm going to connect the dots. Now before I connect the dots, I need to decide, is this a solid or dotted line? This right here, my inequality, is what's going to tell me. There is not an equal to. That means my boundary line does not work. So it's not going to be a solid line. This is actually going to be a dotted line. My boundary line is not equal to. There's not a little equal to symbol under here. It's just greater than. So that indicates a dotted line. Now we have to decide, am I going to shade above this line or below this line? And my suggestion was to always use 0, 0 as a point. So take your inequality, put 0 in for x, put 0 in for y, that's the origin, and let's decide if this is true or false, kind of like question 1. Well, this entire side, if I multiply by 0 and then do subtraction, that's just going to give me 0. Is 0 greater than negative 28? 0 greater than negative 28. That's true. So that means I shade everything below the line. I shade on the side with 0, 0 because 0, 0 works. It means all of those points will work. Now another way that you can actually solve this or graph this is to take your inequality, and some of you all choose to do this. Take your inequality and solve for y. Well, the first thing we're going to have to do to solve this for y is we need to move the x. This is a positive 4x, so I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. Now I can't actually subtract 4x from negative 28, and this is where some people have a little confusion here. On this side, I can't literally subtract that. They're not like terms, so just write what you see. I have a negative 4x and a negative 28. Negative 4x minus 28 is what that becomes. It just becomes a subtraction expression there. This side, I'm left with negative 7y. And then the last step to solve this for y is to divide everything by negative 7. Now what you have to be careful here with is that if I'm dividing both sides by a negative number, this inequality symbol must be reversed. So negative 7 divided by negative 7 gives me the positive 1y that I need. Then I have to flip that symbol because I divided both sides by a negative number, and then just simplify from there. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. So that leaves me 4 over 7. That's my slope, x. And then negative 28 divided by negative 7, that gives me a positive 4. So what I'm left here with, and you could actually try this out here, I've got 4 as my y-intercept. Then I can rise 4, 3, 4, and run 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can see that my line's a little off from when I was drawing my dotted line, but you are going to get the exact same line. And then of course when you plug in 0 for y and 0 for x and simplify both sides, you're still going to get that this below the line will work. So either method, cover-up method or solving for y, will yield the exact same graph.